Hello and good morning, everyone. This is Dregn Durant of the Yasuhiro 0088. Hope everyone enjoyed the holidays yesterday, for those of you that celebrated. And today, we're doing another episode of Exploring AI. And today, we're also joined by a special guest, and our first guest, and a good friend of the channel, Azabiel. Azabiel, however you pronounce this guy's name. Let's go ahead and give him a warm welcome as we jump into talking a little bit about artificial intelligence, the various tools that we've explored on this channel, as well as most likely diving into a little bit of the tabletop RPG realm. So, are you there?
How's it going?
All right. So for those that are not familiar or are new to the channel, Azabiel here is a professional game master, being an individual who runs tabletop RPG games. He does it professionally on Start Playing. The link for that is available in the description for anyone who is interested and would like to check that out. And if anyone would also like to maybe join us on a future episode to have some conversation and explore some of these tools and share some thoughts around them. There is a form in the description as well that you can check out, and we can review and maybe get you on a future episode. So with that, how you doing, dude?
I'm doing well. Looking forward to seeing what trouble we can get into.
Oh, are we planning to get into some trouble? Okay. Well, I think let's just jump in because this series is about exploring artificial intelligence, looking at the various, well, I guess where to start. So we started this at the beginning of the new year, and you get the honor, the privilege, and you get to make claim of being the first guest on the series. So round of applause. But these episodes are kind of a way to explore this new space of artificial intelligence that has gained a lot of, I suppose, attention once it has become a very visual asset and tool slash utility and all sorts of things, right? In the recent months, it has greatly advanced into the world of artwork, and with that came the awareness of the musical capabilities, which we actually explored in our last episode, episode 8. And we also saw the, I guess, public release or public research demo of ChatGPT, a text-based generator that is widely accessible, widely available, and has gotten also a ton of attention in just the past month alone. So as we jump into our little chat here with as we sometimes will call him, what's your experience been? What have you seen? What have you heard? What's been your, I guess, perspective of AI tools that have kind of made this sudden emergence into the whole creative world?
Well, I think it's been a little bit of a roller coaster, right? Initially, like my introduction to it was the image generation stuff. So I imagine it's probably the same way for a lot of people, but that was kind of my first introduction to this kind of stuff. And initially, I was like, "Hey, that's really cool. You can, you can make something out of nothing. Uh, Obviously not out of nothing, but that's kind of how it felt
Yeah.
at the time. And then as it started getting kind of more awareness to it, then you start seeing the issues that people were having with it. And so I was like, oh, maybe this isn't such a good thing. But it was just kind of a back and forth, like not quite sure how to feel about this stuff. And even now, like just in the last like week or two, I've been seeing some stuff about certain ones that are getting some media coverage for one reason or another.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, especially with stuff that I've been seeing on your show here more recently, it's a really interesting thing to look into. I'm really curious to honestly know more about how it works, what goes into it, and all of that. So
Okay. So with that said, would you say that your outlook, coming from someone who I would consider being a GM as kind of a, well, GM standing for game master alone, kind of lends to this idea that, hey, you're in the driver's seat, you're kind of the one steering the ship when it comes to tabletop games, especially the role-playing types that you are very familiar with. And you have I'd say some minimal artistic capabilities from what I've seen and what you've kind of built for your own channel, and some of the samples that you've sent, even if they might, come from templates and such. But would you consider yourself, like, to what degree of, I suppose, artistry would you rate yourself?
I I think when it comes to art of a visual medium, I'm definitely in the earlier stages. I think a lot of what I haven't properly, taken the time to learn the fundamentals and things like that. Definitely more in the writing space
Yeah.
of artistic endeavors. But yeah, I mean, I have made some graphical elements for my channel, for TTRPG games and stuff like that. Less so about characters. Typically, a lot of my focus has been more other things, other elements of graphic design stuff. But yeah, definitely, in the realm of amateur artist, I would say, for the visual art forms.
Sure. And coming, and then the reason why I asked is coming. So, with that position, do you see, maybe through a little bit of how we've exploited on our channel and some of the news that has come out from, I suppose, the uproar versus the neat factor, right? Uh, do you see these tools heading in the right direction, or do you feel a little unsure about it still?
I think unsure, but I mean only so much as I'm unsure when it comes to, you know, the not knowing what the people in control of the thing are going to do with it. And that's
Yeah.
been a sort of a big thing with tabletop RPGs very recently. But as far as just like the core possibilities of the technology, I think I'm very intrigued to see where it can go. I don't think it is inherently like a bad thing. I don't think it is a flawed technology, so much as the applications can be
Yeah.
problematic.
I think that's a good take. Yeah. I'd say it, even in my own experience, watching and consuming a lot of information from the creative sphere, which I've admitted to not being, artistic myself, or I suppose if I were to position myself in a similar manner as you described, being more in like the writing sense, I'd say mine would come more from, I don't know, overall idea slash storytelling. And it's interesting to see the artists out there who, during the initial split of the community, right? We saw some who were very curious about it, very interested, some who looked at it and was like, "Oh, I could see how I could use this tool for my process." And then there were others that just flat out rejected the whole concept, right? And
Mhm.
in the recent weeks, it's I started seeing and I started noticing that some of these individuals started to join each other and have conversation about it, which was fascinating because I'd say the boiling water has begun to simmer and lessen in the space as a whole, based on, again, just my scope of I don't know if I'd call it research, but observation. So, but switching gears back to what you were saying earlier about the tabletop RPG space, have you're more involved in observing that sphere than I am, being more specialized, I would say, in that type of endeavor. But have you seen any sort of community posts or conversations happening in the tabletop RPG sphere when it comes to AI artwork and reference material, or has a lot of that been kind of overshadowed recently due to the Wizard of the Coast drama that's happening?
I think lately everything is kind of overshadowed in the TTRPG space, but I imagine largely what I have seen in that space is probably largely due to the overlap with um, artists that are also in the TTRPG world.
Those doing, say, like concept art or something more particular?
Like I mean I think it's just kind of a natural aspect of RPGs. You see all kinds of people of various artistic talents come
Yeah,
into it.
sure.
And with there being so many people playing TTRPGs, getting art commissions and stuff, I think that's probably another route for uh, visual artists to get into that world.
Sure.
So I think with there being so many artists there, that a lot of the discussion has been basically not so much in the TTRPG space so much as it is just the artists actively talking about it, just kind of spilling into there as well. Though I have seen at least a couple examples of other game masters that have made use of AI generated stuff for their games.
Mm-hmm. Any particular examples? Because you being funny enough, a member of the campaign that we had run for a good while on the channel right here. I made it. I'm pretty sure I was pretty transparent that some of the artistic assets that we had leveraged were AI, or not really. I don't know. Well, I don't know if I'd consider. No, I guess it would be artificial intelligence driven, but we had used, say, like Wombo Dream in a lot of our assets, right? Just as I quote unquote it a vibe check, right? Rather than having a verbal only description, right? Giving some sort of a visual or a verbal description that matches or clarifies some sort of a abstract visual. I feel goes a long way. But yeah, what have you seen?
I mean, it's definitely something that I've considered, but haven't ever really. Yeah, haven't ever really used it. I've looked at it more recently, not so much for uh, any games that I'm running, but more so for a character concept that I
Mm-hmm.
was working on. But there is um, a game master that I recall seeing, not someone that I know personally, but I'd seen their game listing on one of the places that I search. It might have been on D&D Beyond or uh, maybe Reddit, but either way, in their listing, that they made it very clear that a lot of what they would be using for NPCs and creatures and stuff visually would be AI generated
Oh, interesting.
visuals.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I imagine there's a lot of kind of more privately used, right, settings or
Mm-hmm.
privately driven settings that are leveraging some of these assets. Of course, even in our exploration of these tools, right, we've already uncovered a few like limitations or when it comes to like consistency or just the ability to go to an artist and be like, hey, can you give me like a couple of action poses for this character, right? That's something that you're probably not going to find any sort of consistency using AI tools
Right.
because of the way these kind of diffusion technologies work. Are
Mm-hmm.
you familiar with that term, the diffusion?
Uh, I'm not, no.
Okay, so one of the common misconceptions, and again, if anyone out there would like to learn a little bit more about this, we did a reaction to I believe it was a 13-minute video. It was episode 5 of the series But we looked at a 13-minute video, ended up adding about another hour to that, talking about the various tools and kind of what we know from our experience in the tech space. And basically, I think there's a misconception where, much like, say, when we see kind of an image blended together, some might think that AI is, surfing and scraping the internet real time, looking for, say, like Google search results of keywords, right? Taking a couple of images and somehow mashing it together to create some sort of monstrosity image, right? Well, the way the AI tools have grown from the early models of, hey, trying to take an existing example and recreating it in the kind of modified format of whatever keyword is entered, right? The input, and then giving us the output. This new wave of AI art tools, utilities, generators, what they're doing is, because they have such a massive data set that has taken millions and millions, and I think the total count for like some of these models is even in the billions, they've essentially fractured and, like, I guess I don't really want to call it over pixelated, but they've taken like pixel quadrants of these images, and with enough samples, the artificial intelligence is able to then recognize, like, hey, in order to create a banana, I think is a common example that comes up just because we all know what a banana is, right? It's a yellow, long, curved looking thing, right? Well, AI got to a point where we could provide it a image, and you see this a lot with the various like captchas that we have to do to like prove we're not a robot, right? Where we're now kind of training the AI to say, hey, what do buses look like? What do trucks look like? What do stop signs look like? What do bananas look like? What do apples look like? So we've been training the AI to take an image and identify what is a banana and what is not. Well, it got to the point where it became consistent enough where it could then look at an image and be smart enough to say what was depicted in said image, right? And generate some keywords based off of that. There's also a bunch of data that was pulled from the webs, which have keywords that are attached to them. So for anyone who knows anything about like web design, or how web code has the ability to set, say, for a certain image, alternative text. So let's say if the image doesn't load, or maybe there's an individual who maybe can't, who doesn't have proper eyesight, they might be able to at least see that there's an image, and using, say, text to speech, can then understand what the image is supposed to be, because there will be keywords that are not a keyword but an alternative text in place of the image, right, that they could then observe. And the machine learning was able to capture a lot of that information as well. So based on that alternative text, it can then have a rough idea of, hey, what is this image supposed to depict, right? But anyways, you take those couple of simple concepts, and you start mashing it all together in this massive data set. And now we're at a point where we're saying, hey, based on the keyword banana, now reverse engineer that into an image. And it does so by generating a very large number of iterations over one another. And as it does so, it's essentially saying, okay, well, there's a yellow curved object that needs to be placed XYZ, right, in various locations based on keywords. And it's slowly fine tuning it to then make the final object of a banana and whatever else is, being described or depicted, or, keywords are being added for. So that is a very high level, but also very all over the place description. But essentially, right, we're taking a bunch of noise and then clearing up all the mess into something that we view now as being like, well, that's actually like really cool, or really abstract, or really beautiful, right? So the technology has actually come a long way, thanks to these massive data sets. Now, again, we're going to leave a lot of that controversy aside now, but yeah, it's definitely wild. So if you want to learn a little bit more about it, again, I implore anyone to go check out our episode 5, which we reviewed a video by Vox, which did a fantastic job really kind of describing it and also providing some visuals of what that looks like. So But as I suppose an example that we can run through, right, is we can talk about, say, ChatGPT. It looks like it is available right now, although it is being hammered. Hopefully, it doesn't crash or go down on us. But I've played around with ChatGPT enough to know that you could use it to generate some very simple ideas of like, hey, what would be like a one shot campaign that could be run, right? If you're looking to
Mm.
brainstorm, ChatGPT is an interesting option. And if you're looking to maybe create some sort of a visual asset, right, we could go back into MidJourney, which is what we use on our channel to dive into that. So, would you want to check one of those out, maybe?
Yeah, I mean, coming into this today, the look at what Midjourney could do, I think,
Is the big one? All
was
right, all
really
right.
interesting to me.
Yeah, let's take a look then.
I do have some thoughts for Chat GPT, but maybe maybe later or another time. I don't know.
Yep.
I don't know what you want to do with it.
No, that's fine. It's always going to be available. But yeah, let's take a look. So let's go ahead and drop down here actually, and we'll get our Discord server up. Don't worry about the extra servers on the side and whatnot. But so we have here our Discord where we can basically do a /imagine command, and there's a bunch of different keywords and what's the word I'm looking for? There's various tags that we can add to this, but before we get into the image itself, well, let's actually just do a quick little keyword. So, being a GM, what would be something that you might look to a tool like this to get some ideas for?
Maybe something like I mean, what immediately comes to mind is how this could be used to come up with some concepts for NPCs, some looks for some NPCs.
Okay,
So like for looking at something a little bit more specific, maybe like a knight, some
sure.
sort of knight.
So if we let's do a couple examples, right? And this kind of will show
Bumped my mic.
the capabilities of Midjourney in this case, as well as maybe some of the limitations that I've noticed. So if we just do night, we'll see what night will generate. Oh, actually, I also need to change it to fast mode. So it is a monetized licensing model that they have here, unfortunately. I think you can play with it for like 30 prompts or something like that. But outside of that, we went ahead and for the sake of the series and to play with it and maybe even for our own campaign, picked up a license to explore with. But so yeah, we got one that is started that is for night. And then if we do like night character concept, that might be another one. So we'll add some more details to it. And then maybe we'll do one more, which will be a night tabletop RPG miniature and see what comes up. And what's interesting is that none of these are going to be the same, but you'll see initially, right, there's a kind of a blurry image of a rough character, and then various iterations are happening. We're only getting periodic updates for it, but as it fine tunes and adds these additional again iterations to clean up the image, it starts to add details. It starts to define armor and whatnot. So it goes from a very not like someone who just has super terrible say eyesight and then fine tunes it to the point where we now get images like these, which now personally I've played with it enough to have noticed that by default, without adding like additional keywords, it does seem to have some bias towards this kind of almost photorealistic but still not quite right look to it. But at a glance, it is very, I suppose, eye catching, right?
Mm-hmm. It went with some interesting
Yeah.
interesting design choices. But they are all certainly looking like knights, that's for sure.
Yep. Actually, the bottom right one here, number 4. I don't know what it is, but it kind of seems like just putting knight. It's like it got confused whether it should include a horse or not. You see that?
Yeah.
It's not
Yeah,
even
I mean the top left one is the perfect middle ground, kind of.
kinda.
It's like a knight with either like a kind of a horse face shaped helmet, or
Yep.
he's just like a horse dude who's
Yeah.
also a knight.
A centaur or something. Yeah. I mean,
But yeah,
all 4 of them kind of have something going on at the top of the helmet where it's like, maybe it did have like a horse blended
yeah.
to it. So yeah, definitely you do get some hit or miss, but if I hit this little cycle button, it's gonna use the same prompt, in this case knight, and you'll see that there's a good chance the images that are generated by redoing this or creating new variations based on the same prompt are going to be wildly different. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. So that is going to be generating at the bottom here. But let's take a look at this other one. So this was
One
the
thing I
second one.
noticed.
Yeah, which one?
Coming into this one,
Yeah.
just compared to the first one, is adding in character concepts seem to make it focus more on like the full figure.
Yeah. There definitely does seem to be, again, certain keywords, right, are going to create different, with the iterations that get kind of generated, right? Yeah, you're right. By adding character, there is a higher likelihood of getting a full body, right? But once again, there are a couple of these, the right half in particular, the top right being a monstrosity, where it seems knight is turning out to be pretty synonymous with a horse.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's gets some interesting mutants in there.
Exactly. Yeah. So I could already, again, I make the argument that you could take some of these if you like the design or like the rough vibe of the design. Like the first one, I think has a very interesting kind of armor style to it.
Yeah, this first one almost looks like someone who's going to walk at me slowly in Elden Ring.
Yeah, I can see that. Yep. Yep. Definitely. Has a kind of a, God, what's the word I'm looking for? Imposing vibe to it. So, yeah. But then let's add the next example here, which we specifically added tabletop RPG miniature, which you can already see just adding miniature alone seems to have created a bit of a favoring of this, again, miniature look, even including some bases here, it looks like.
Yeah, that's interesting. That's something I wouldn't have expected that you would see. I wouldn't have even known what it would do with the word miniature, but like, you know, it's got the bases on some of them. It's got kind of the funky, like, I think they call it heroic scale.
Yeah.
Where like the shoulders are bigger and the weapons are bigger. Like this first guy, his like upper body is just like huge.
Yeah, actually, even that first one actually came out pretty well too. I mean, the helmet's a little questionable, but I mean, hell, you could definitely take that and spin with it, right? So you got some options here. So let's look at the last example, which again we just did another refresh. Ooh. So we took knight, and again, knight and horse, man, it's definitely doing something weird here. But 3 out of 4 looks like heavily horse inspired.
Yeah, these two on the right, I'm like, I could see these being things that you would see in like a Souls game still.
Yeah.
They've got that kind of that grim vibe to it.
That first one, though.
Weirdness.
Let's talk about this first one.
That first one is just...
It's a horse knight. Yeah.
That's clearly what everyone thinks of when they see the chess piece.
The chess piece? Oh, man.
Looks like a horse called a knight.
Yeah. It's gosh, a bipedal horse would be terrifying. So, yeah. So here's the other cool thing that we can explore with these tools, right? So you had actually provided us with a couple of miniatures that you had generated using a common tool. Let me go ahead and switch over to our browser. and you guys can take a look here. So what are these images here for those who may be unfamiliar with where these came from?
These are effectively tabletop miniature designs made on HeroForge, which is a incredibly versatile tool that I am in love with. And you know, they've got the means to assemble, pose, and color minis. So that's what I've done. I've did it 4 times over. In this particular case, I've done it a lot more than that. But I've picked some of my recent favorites to bring out here. One guy that I've played in a one shot, one that I'm planning to play in a PvP one shot on a stream in the near future, and then just a couple other designs that I really liked.
Okay, very cool. So on the topic of a knight, I'd say a couple of these could fall in that category. So we have a female here with what's the vibe here? Is she supposed to be like an Athena type of character?
A little bit, yeah. I was going for sort of a mix between like classic superhero style and Greek fantasy.
Nice, I could see it. And then over here we got fantasy Darth Vader.
This is Lord Vykoth, immortal juggernaut of the Ebon Order. Definitely not a Sith. I don't know what you're talking about. That's not a lightsaber. It's a sunblade.
Ooh, a sunblade. Okay.
Something like that.
All right. Well, hey,
I always mix up sunblade and sunsword. Either way.
I mean, it's very bright and shiny.
It sure is.
Yeah. Don't look at it directly. You'll lose an eye. But let's pick one of these two to start with. The armored dude or the
I would
female
like to
battle
start
warrior
with the Greek lady, the Greek styled lady. This is actually the one I mentioned. I'm going to be using in a sort of PvP one shot tournament that's coming up in February. That I'm sure more info will be going out soon-ish, and I will share it whenever I can. But cool. I would be, because of the fact that I'm going to use this character, I'd be really interested to see what could come of this.
All right, so here, let's switch back over to our Discord server. So you could obviously, right, as we've done, type in various prompts. We didn't really go super in-depth with the prompt. We just did a few basic keywords and saw what came of it. Now, what you can also do is if you say have reference artwork, or even in this case, this is an idea that I tried out and saw that there was potential. You could take what you create through HeroForge, which, as far as I'm aware, HeroForge doesn't claim any sort of like licensing for what you generate on your own by, using your own imagination on their site, right? Or do you have to pay some license to be able to use those models?
No, you don't have to pay them to use the models, as far as I'm aware. They I'm pretty sure they make it clear that like the concept and everything, all that is your stuff, your ideas. So it's just like the actual like models, I think they have, because that's how they make their business,
Yep. So what we could do, right, is we could take that image, which since you had sent it to me through Discord, I went ahead and just opened up the Discord URL for it. So we're going to add that as part of our prompt, and then we can say, gosh, what should we start with? We could either try to recreate the miniature. We could try creating like a character portrait. We could try creating like a character concept. What tickles your fancy?
I would be interested to see what it would do with like a portrait.
A portrait. Okay, so we'll use the link, and then we'll specify that we want a... Should I say character? No, I think we'll just do portrait and see what happens. Portrait. Let's give that a shot. And we'll do a couple more as well. We're actually just going to copy the short link. Not that it really matters. But, so let's use the same thing. We'll call it maybe character portrait. Is there a particular art style that you're a fan of? Like a painted or a kind of 3D rendered
I,
or maybe fantasy drawn?
that sounds good.
Fantasy drawn style.
Yeah.
Give that a shot. So, looks like that first one has finished. So if we take a look at this and really quick swap over, so it looks like the skin tone didn't quite get translated through. So we'll have to add some keywords for that. Yellow eyes also didn't get quite translated over. And the armor plate colors didn't also quite transfer over either. So what we might need to do with this image is zoom it in a little bit and maybe crop out the top portion so we can try to get a more, I guess, direct sample of what we're looking to get output. Because I'm wondering if, the armor and the colors are kind of there, but it's not quite in the same likeness, right?
Yeah.
So let's try that. Let's go ahead and swap back here. It looks like our other example is still in the works. All right. So I think what I'll do is we'll take this image and we'll zoom in a little bit. And we're actually just going to do a screen capture. Oh, that's the wrong button. Let's try snipping. What would you say? Maybe something like that. All right. And then let's go ahead and I'm just going to paste that into the Discord. We'll just put it right there and pull it from that. All right. So now we have this image, which if I open that up in the browser, we'll take that link and see what we can get out of it. So we'll take a closer image. We'll say character concept portrait. Try that out. Actually, we'll add fantasy styled. Maybe as an alternative, I'll rephrase that to concept character, concept portrait, fantasy drawing. We'll try a couple of those. Oh, and then we also need to make sure we clarify the skin tone and the eye color. So we'll do one more while it's generating these. We can do 3 at a time. So what would you say? It's going to be, how would you describe the eyes?
I would usually say like golden eyes or something like that.
Golden eyes. All right. Hair is going to be short brown.
Yeah.
And the skin, what would you call that? Bronze?
I think that would be fitting, yeah.
All right. So let's try that. Let's also there is a way to put different priorities on the various keywords, but we're not going to go to that level of depth. If you really want to get advanced with the tool, there is a lot you can do to kind of add different weight to different keywords. But so we have the image. We want to specify that it is a female with golden eyes, short brown hair, bronze skin. Actually, we don't even need to say with. We just do keywords only. Now, I've noticed there's a couple of folks who will do this a little different. There's the camp of people who will do the keywords, and then there's the camp of people who will do like a sentence structure. But yeah, as you can see, right, if you took your image to an artist, they would probably be able to give you exactly a represented character drawn of the model you created, right? Whereas with the AI, you're kind of sort of rolling the dice, because even though the initial base might be very similar to what you're looking for, what's output is going to get fine-tuned and altered essentially by the AI. So trying to get the keywords right to where it is consistent is definitely going to be something. I think the term that people have been floating around is prompt engineering, right? Where it's like the creative logic of what these prompts need to be and how they need to be formatted, and to what extent do you go dive into that, right, in order to get the result you're looking for. So looks like a couple of our examples have finished. So let's scroll up to the first one, which is just the image, concept portrait, fantasy styled. And I think, did we not? Yeah, we didn't specify female, so we got a couple that is perhaps questionable. And I've commented about this in a couple of episodes, but I do definitely see a trend with female characters in particular, where we're starting to see like a normalized visual of this button nose. I don't know if you see what I'm talking about here, but
yeah.
But yeah, what would you say for this one? I mean, aside from not having the details of eye color and hair and skin color, I'd say this is in the right direction.
It's definitely in the right direction. I could definitely see the hair on the top left or the bottom right being, definitely the closest of the bunch. The bottom left probably is the closest in like the hardness of the face.
Okay.
Top right is a little bit too far. The other two a little bit too far in the other direction.
Yeah. Okay. What would you call that face then on the bottom left? It would be like a stern angular?
Angular. Yeah, I think that would be fitting, yeah.
Okay. Maybe we'll try adding like a keyword like that to see where we get. But let's take a look at the next one. Ooh, this one actually went with a particular style. So we went with concept portrait fantasy drawing. And I'm getting a little bit of like Wonder Woman vibes coming from a couple of these.
Yeah, a little bit. I can definitely see that. I mean, yeah, and I'm definitely seeing more of like the face shape feels a little bit more right in these. The hair, I mean, for the most part, almost across the board, is
in
kind
the
of
right
matching.
Direction. Yeah.
The armor is all over the place, but it's all over the place on all of them. So
Yep. Definitely outfits are going to be tricky to get what you're looking for when you already have a visual to compare with.
Yeah, definitely more in the right direction than that first batch, I would say, overall.
And you got to notice too, right? Like the description here really hasn't changed much, right? So what we could even do, right, is if I hit the refresh here, or to create new variations of it, we'll probably get something maybe even slightly different. We'll see. But by adding, let's see, okay, we didn't even add details here either, but what did this one do? Character portrait, fantasy drawn style. Couple
definitely
of these
went in a different direction, the overall thing, like a little bit more zoomed out.
Definitely a bit more zoomed out. Did I copy the wrong link? Oh, you know what it is? This is probably the one that I did the variation for, perhaps. Let's see. Did I click? I didn't. Okay, I just have the wrong link in there, right? N1, and then okay, that's why. So this is not using the zoomed in portrait view. That's why. So we'll skip over that one. But this is where we started adding. We specified specifically we're looking at a female. We want the golden eyes, short brown hair, bronze skin. Character concept portrait, fantasy style. So a bit more consistency, right? The more keywords we add, it looks like it's getting us in the right direction. And
yeah, definitely.
Yeah, what are your thoughts of these?
I mean, it's you know, there's some gains and some losses.
Yep.
um, it seems like it's matching less on like the hair, at least in regards to the general style of it, and might be leaning more into the prompt for the hair on these ones,
Mhm.
because I think there was more mention of the hair on this one, right?
A little bit. Yep.
But then yeah, it's got consistency. It's still pulling, you know, the right colors on like the armor and stuff, which is interesting that the armor gets consistent colors, but like the actual character, it was kind of jumping around a little bit before.
Yeah, that's something I've noticed through the tool as well. It's definitely when it comes to like faces, right? If you're doing like a full body, there's a chance the face is going to become misshapen, much like in a couple of the past episodes where I had generated images that had hands. The hands were like, oh, you got 10 fingers. That's not quite right. but
Yeah.
but when you're looking at images that are like close up of a face, like a portrait style, like we're looking at here, there's definitely a degree of consistency with like the facial structure overall. There's definitely a bit of nuance when it comes to some fine details, but I'd say again for the purpose of like generating ideas, the tool definitely has its use, but you really are kind of rolling the dice, which is funny seeing how you're a tabletop RPG guy.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
Yeah. Looking over these, I mean and I almost certainly mentioned this at some point before, but I feel like it's really a great potential use of the technology for coming up with the rough concepts, right?
mhm,
Like if you already have something that is already what you want, then I mean, what do you even need this for? But
correct.
if you have the idea, or you know, you've cobbled something together in some format that isn't what you're looking for, and you want to get more concepts that are closer to what you're looking for in regards to like the style or something like that, I think there's a lot there. Obviously, getting the specifics is super tricky.
Oh yeah.
Gotta
Not
wonder if it's even possible
nigh
to,
impossible, I would say. Yeah. Unless
but
it's like a definable aspect like the eye color and the hair color, it's definitely going to be tricky.
yeah, but if you were to take what we've done here and then go to an artist or start making something yourself using those as references and taking the elements of each, that's like, well, I liked the facial structure on this one and the eye color from this one, and you know, the hair from this one, you know, and start kind of Frankensteining it, but what with the drawing and such,
Mhm.
then you know, you can get that final product that is that 100% what you're
Yep.
looking for.
Yep. Yeah, I think that's a good point, right? Because I know just in the year that I've done streaming, which is, we're doing this VTuber thing with the model and everything, but there has been some, I would say, inefficiently spent funds that resulted in more kind of concept generation rather than usable product. So I think that's where we're going to see a lot of challenges just in the artistic sphere in general, which is you're going to probably have a group of people out there, which I probably would fit in that category, which will just generate image after image after image to try to get the pieces that I'm looking for before I then go to an artist. Because I've noticed this trend, and I don't know what your experience is with working with artists. I know anybody who's in the world that we're kind of in here, as well as the tabletop RPG space, probably has a certain degree of what's the term I'm looking for, a lack of self-control when it comes to the desire of getting art made for their own endeavors,
Uh-huh.
Yeah. So, if you go to an artist, and I think it's neat that you do the whole HeroForge stuff, because you could take a HeroForge model that you can get a really close idea of, what type of character and vibe and shape you're looking for the most part. But you are also still limited by the quote unquote pieces that are available to create this model, right? So if you wanted to say, hey, this is the rough kind of idea I want for the armor, maybe we'll try a couple of prompts here that look at seeing what we could do about armor generation. That's something I haven't really experimented with. Ooh, what the hell happened here? Oh, let's swap. Ooh, let's swap back. It looks like it did. So this one, right, is a regeneration of, which one was it? Of this one here. So using concept fantasy drawn of the zoomed in image, right? This one created this set of images, which I don't know if it's intended, but there is like a certain degree of likeness in between all of these, right? And even in the latest generated one, I don't know why it's going with this like monochrome kind of dealio, but definitely an interesting take. So yeah, it hitting the refresh or the generate new for these types of tools, it would be so difficult to get like a certain degree of the same image popping up again, right? I think it's very close to a chance of nil. But yeah, it's definitely a tool. It's definitely a tool. We'll leave it at that.
Yeah, it is interesting how just on the regeneration, it's just like, we don't need color. Only the armor.
Yep. So speaking of armor, right? Let's try this. Let's try let's try asking it for, not even asking, let's try prompting it for armor specifically. So if we go for the image, right, we want to say, I guess we'll keep the female. We'll try a sentence this time. Female with golden eyes and short brown hair. What else can we say? Short brown hair, bronze skin with, what did you say? Angular face?
Yeah, I think.
Would you call it feminine or masculine?
The more feminine than masculine.
All right, with the angular.
So I wonder if that's gonna make like override the angular aspect and just go super like round faced or something.
Yeah, so let's go with a angular face. We'll just leave it at that. Bronze skin. Oh, body build type. What would you call the build type for her body? It's, muscular.
Yeah, certainly muscular.
So let's go muscular bronze skin with an angular face, and then for the armor, what can we say for the armor? Let's pull it back up. So what would you say here? It's like what, a black bodysuit almost?
Yeah, something like that. And then, I mean, the boots don't technically match, but the general idea is supposed to be kind of Greek looking elements.
All right, so let's go with black body.
The shield is about the only part that is actually Greek on there, I think.
Yeah, I get where it's coming from. You definitely have like the trident, right? The little Poseidon. You got the little Athena shield kind of vibe.
The important thing is that it's Greek fantasy, not Greek history.
Would you say it's like a metallic red armor?
Yeah, absolutely.
Metallic red armor, and what was it? Was it a? Hold on, let me switch it back again. Is it a gold trim?
Yeah, like a
gold accent.
Yeah,
and gold accents. All right, I think I got my spelling right everywhere. What else can we add? Holding a trident and shield.
It's so much prompt.
It is a lot of prompt. You should see some of them that exist out there. But let's see what that does. Let's see what that does. So yeah, let's try that.
I command of you, machine, make this.
Do the thing. And you know what? We'll even do 2 more with the exact same prompt just to see what happens. So yeah, first one, right? You see the rough design of the female. I definitely see a little bit of a, ooh, they started changing direction on a couple of them. There's some detail getting added in. Looks like the armor's getting fine-tuned. The bottom right one's armor is getting a little closer, but definitely the red metal look is not quite there, but interesting.
Now, they definitely went a different way with the armor, but also there's a lot of elements of any of these that could be refined into something really cool looking.
Yeah, that's definitely true. Looks
Those
like
weapons are certainly something.
yeah, no joke. Yeah, what is she holding? None of the weapons are like straight either. Yeah. Yeah, the more complex the image, right? When it's not abstract, the more details that you really kind of see where the limitations still exist. But
yeah,
I think one element that we've missed in the prompt is Greek inspiration. I definitely think that Greek inspiration is going to be needed. But let's see what the other ones have done. So one is still working, perhaps? Interesting. What did I say for the skin? Muscular bronze. Bronze skin. I guess that it's about the right shade. Yeah. But this is the second set of images, which not sure how it misunderstood Trident in all of them. But again, it probably had the rough shape of like a pole arm, and then it just blended it, is probably what's going on here. Also, we didn't really specify an art style. Oh, the armor on the top ones are closer, maybe.
Yeah, definitely. The bottom left one has that cut out on the chest, it looks like.
Yeah.
It managed to figure that part out. Looks like others might have either ignored it or misinterpreted it in different ways. That top right one that's like a Wonder Woman alternate costume.
Yeah, yeah, you know what? You might not be far
like
off.
The primary aspects of it, and then just more armor.
Yeah, I could see that. I can absolutely see that. Interesting. Let's see here. Now the final one looks like it finished, but it
doesn't exist.
Doesn't have anything. Yeah. All right, so let's take that prompt again. And let's try to fine tune it. And then maybe we'll move on to the next one. I think we've gotten pretty close to having enough. But the bronze skin with golden eyes and brown hair, I mean, that's pretty straightforward. Some of them look pretty dark, but yeah. So female with golden eyes and short brown hair. Muscular body, bronze skin. Let's try breaking some of these up. Angular face. Black bodysuit. Yeah, let's try it with just more like keyword prompts here. Black bodysuit. Under. Let's add under. Red metallic armor. Red metallic. Let's actually just say red Greek inspired armor instead of metallic. Greek, I think the all armor is pretty much metallic in a way, right? The color, the paint style isn't going to be maybe metallic, but we'll see what it comes up with. With red Greek, would you say your image, was it red or it might be more crimson? Let's go with crimson.
Sure.
Crimson Greek inspired armor with gold accents. female. Okay, and let's also add more at the top. Female holding a trident and shield. Then let's also then move the facial details to her angular face with golden eyes and short brown hair. That seems a bit more consistent, prompt-wise at least, based on my corpo brain. Let's try that. let's give that a shot. And then we'll do 2 of those. Oop. And then we'll try one more after this with maybe another sample. Yeah, let's see what that does. Yeah, what are you thinking about this whole process so far of trying out this tool through proxy?
It's really interesting, and just the way I keep looking at it, basically what I keep going back to is just the idea that like this is almost like sparking ideas for other concepts with like the designs it's coming up with.
Yeah. I'd say the more creative the individual, the more likely you're going to come to that similar conclusion where it's just like, this is making my head spark in all sorts of weird directions, right? So interestingly, a couple of these actually seems to be matching the black shades and the red shades a bit better. The weapon is still a mystery to me. And I suppose I should maybe define like a rounded shield, because it definitely is just taking like any shield it wants.
Yeah.
But otherwise, I kind of feel like this top left one in particular, the first image, maybe the armor from the bottom left. No, I don't know. There's like bits and pieces here and there, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
like I feel like the bottom left one kind of nailed like the chest piece of the armor a little bit better than any of the others so far. But like the top left one feels like it's got the layers to it instead of just all being just one layer of armor stuff.
Yeah. You got like the separated chest plate and whatnot. Yeah, I could see that. But yeah, you could take like, you know, what is it? We've generated 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. We'll say 8 because one of them's kind of weird. But this one actually has a top half of a weapon at least. But yeah, you know, you could take these and just be like, hey, artist, out of these images, you know, I want the chest piece here, I want the shield here, I want the weapon is trash here, so let's grab one from the internet, right? You know, you can mix and match, because I think that's what a lot of artists do anyways, right? They're either going to pull a bunch of references and use that to create what you had described, or you're going to provide them with the references that they would use, right?
And I don't know if it's just that I like Wonder Woman, or, you know, and my brain's just like, hey, these are all vaguely Wonder Woman, like, yeah. But just like these ones especially too, it's like I'm getting Wonder Woman vibes from these two.
Yep.
I don't know if it's just the legs out armor situation that they've got going on or what.
Yeah.
But like, there's elements of them where it just like, I don't know. And I mean, on these ones, it makes a little bit more sense because we threw in the Greek inspired bit of it, but it was showing up on the other ones too. That I don't think there was anything that would tie it to Wonder Woman specifically.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, when you're looking at like nuanced body part details, as far as like how far does the armor go, you're really kind of just hoping that your prompt is including enough keywords and formatted in a way where it's like the AI will put those random jigsaw pieces together in a way that creates a image that resembles the box photo, but at the same time, right? Again, I'm going to go back to that metaphor. You really are. It's not even a metaphor. It pretty much is rolling the dice with the AI in this case. So
yeah.
And then you also have to consider, you know, I guarantee there is likely going to be some sort of like Wonder Woman inspiration coming here, or like an Amazoness kind of inspiration or bias, I should say, because I remember in the video that we had reacted to, right? If I go to, let's say, testing here, just to put some garbage prompts in, if we do, say, doctor versus, say, nurse, can you guess what I'm getting at here? If not, yeah, what I'm expecting is the doctor is going to be overwhelmingly a male representation, whereas the nurse will likely be female. Yep, I can already kind of
Yeah,
tell.
you can already.
Yep.
Yeah.
So this is one of the, I suppose, downsides is the kind of bias of the data set, right? Where, and also just, I don't know, is it a bias of the data set, or is it a bias of what people put out there that was then collected as the data set, right? So yeah, it's interesting also how like these images have this kind of guy that looks like he hasn't slept in a couple extra days, right? Also the messy hair.
The hair makes me think they're pulling some Doctor Who.
Oh yeah,
with Doctor in it.
Yep.
Because
Also, they're all wearing
all
vests.
the characters from Doctor Who have very like particular hairstyles.
Yep. Very kind of British inspired. And then the nurses. Oh, you know what? The nurse example is kind of pulling from the old like World War II like pinup style.
Yeah, there's not just like a 20-something person with way too little rest and way too high of student loans in scrubs.
Yep, exactly. Where's the modern day nurse? Come on, like the headgear here that they're wearing. Actually, even that first one looks like it might even be from, I don't know what that logo would be inspired from, but yeah. So, anyways, the point here that I was trying to make, right, is that your vibe that there's some Wonder Woman inspiration or some kind of like Amazoness, whatever the fuck. It's you're likely thinking in the right direction, right? So, on the flip side, if we, we'll probably go for another half an hour or so, but if we take a look at then your other dude, this guy, we'll just maybe do a couple examples and then we'll just open it up to whatever direction you might want to go. But I feel like this guy is gonna get some, like, I still feel like Darth Vader or Kylo Ren or something is gonna get pulled into this. But let's try it.
So, yeah, if I don't see a Kylo Ren, I'm gonna be at least a little disappointed.
Yeah. So give me some ideas for some keywords, and I'll try to help you with the prompt here.
Heavy imposing armor.
Heavy imposing, okay.
Let's see. Hood. Black hood.
So let's go with imposing. Heavy imposing armor. Yeah, that's probably fine as is. And then black hood.
How to describe it without saying lightsaber? Red-bladed energy sword.
Black.
Maybe something along those lines.
We'll do heavy imposing armor with black hood. Wielding a glowing red energy. What did you call it? Energy sword?
Energy sword? Generic terms.
Yeah.
So we don't get sued by Disney.
Heavy imposing armor. Okay. And then.
Sure, that's how that works.
I wonder, should we add power stance? Power stance.
There we go.
Let's see what that does. And then as a variation, let's take the exact same prompt and add like a stylized. Oop, I actually misspelled one here.
Can't believe you've done
I
this.
know. All right, we'll take that and correct it, and then we'll also then. Oh, gotta always remember the imagine. Although, you know what? Let's wait. Let's wait. Let's see what this is generating here. Because I see the glow. I see the red. It definitely kind of seems to be getting the helmet a little closer, but we'll see what the finalized look is going to be. Interesting.
Does this bottom right one have lightsabers built into his armor?
Why not? Also,
this top right one almost looks like it's supposed to be like a rapier or something. It looks like it's supposed to be like a hilt going around the hand.
I see it. It's interesting how, unlike the other one, which created. See, again, I think there's definitely some bias when it comes to a female look, which is pretty noticeable. But this one has more of a almost like a video game concept look to it.
Yeah, I could see that. It's interesting. We got different flavors of like helmet openings too. So you got some where it kind of matched what we have with just the two separated eyes, and then you've got like the
top half
T shape and stuff.
Yep. Interesting.
Which definitely fits if you're going for a Star Wars vibe.
Did you also notice how it put the sword in the completely different hand?
Yeah, it made them all right-handed.
So it makes me wonder, it's like, how much weight does by default the image actually have in this case? Which, let me actually open it. Did I? Yeah, I did pick the right one. Of course I did. Huh, interesting. Oh, you know what? I didn't even switch back to Discord. My bad, guys. So yeah, this is what we were looking at here. Yeah, very interesting. I'm actually that top right one actually has a particular vibe to it.
Yeah, it's got a good imposing stance, appropriate bulkiness of the armor.
Yeah, let's get a couple more in here. Let's see. So we'll keep the heavy imposing armor with black hood. Heavy imposing. Yeah, imposing. Maybe we add heavy armor, heavily armored with black hood, imposing posture, wielding a. What if we get rid of glowing? Do you think it'd just make it a red saber? Well, maybe we'll try that.
That'd be interesting to see.
Yeah, let's try that variation. This is honestly what these tools are like, is just constantly experimenting and getting just inklings of an idea. Rarely I'll find like a gem and I'm just like, that just sparked all sorts of things and I don't need to change it. I'm going to take that, I'm going to give it to somebody and be like, that I want that. But the vast majority of times it is a lot of just trial and error and rolling the dice.
Yeah, I'm just thinking, like, if you were using this for trying to make, say, just any given NPCs for a D&D campaign, like, you're gonna be at this for hours.
Well, it's two ways, right? Because if you already created the idea,
yeah,
then you're trying to reverse image or reverse generate a image to match the idea, which is, I would say, way more difficult than having an image to start with to then create the concept, right? So I don't know. I think it is going to depend on, I think, the perspective of the creative, regardless of, what avenue of creative that they're coming from. So interesting in this case, the sword glow is less of a glow from the previous example, but this one is like concentrated.
I feel like this top right slot is really nailing it on this guy. From the last image and from this one, like that top right space is the winner.
Okay.
But there's definitely really cool elements of each of these other ones too.
Yeah. Bottom right's totally, flexing on us here. Doesn't even have
Like,
the need to hold the sword.
if I was this guy, I would have like each of these helmets and just wear a different one each day.
There you go. Actually, could you imagine? That's an idea right there. You generate all these helmets and you're like, you know what? My bad guy, the party's going to run into, and we're talking tabletop RPG now, but the party's going to run into a baddie, a henchman during every one shot or series. And what they'll find out at the way, way end is that all along it was the same dude and he just got away every time and put on a different helmet. Or maybe they're clones.
Yeah. The weapon, I feel like the weapons are always going to come up in some sort of weird, interesting way.
Yeah. I've actually noticed just from testing weapons. So I have a category here, I believe. Yeah. So I started playing around with weapons and I had a couple that were decent, but here, let me, I looked up one for a sniper. Where is it? It does not seem to understand the size difference of a scope and a gun. So, yeah, and actually a couple of the bottom ones here, we got scopes on scopes on scopes. So I've noticed that
that's wild.
Weaponry does seem to be a very weak point, but at the same time, you do get some very interesting stylizations here.
Yeah.
I don't know if I just make up a phrase, but yeah, like here's another one I tried to create. I think this is another rifle. It's less like, bro, the gun, please make the gun larger than the scope for one. And also we don't need Splinter Cell in gun form. But yeah. So weapons definitely seems to be a tricky part of these tools. Either that or I just haven't quite figured out how to do that type of concept.
Yeah. It did get almost like a katana look to this bottom right one, though.
Yeah. So if we go back
as far as like the blade goes,
yeah, if we go back to your original here, what kind of swords would you call it?
Understanding. Well, in HeroForge, that is a falchion.
Okay. Let's try that.
I decided when making them, like the concept is just like, how can I make a Sith in D&D? And I wanted to go with something that wasn't just stick of energy for the weapon. So I was like, let's just make it an actual like sword shape. And I actually like how it looks better than trying to make a lightsaber in HeroForge anyway.
So let's try that. So let's go with, let's see here. Let me go back to your armor here. So the armor, it definitely seems to be adding more armor. Imposing figure? No. What to call it? Heavily armored. Heavily armored. Let's do that rather than armor. Heavily armored with black hood and cape. Oh no, the images seem to be including the cape, so we don't have to modify that. Heavily armored with black hood, imposing posture, wielding a red energy falchion sword.
You know, it's crazy and almost a crime is that I almost didn't put a cape on this guy.
No capes.
It's Star Wars, you gotta have capes.
You know what? Here, I have an idea since you mentioned Star Wars. Oh, keep doing that. We do enough of these. All right, so imagine that modified prompt, and then let's also see just the sheer difference by adding Star Wars.
What would be super cool, and I don't imagine it to be able to do it, but if it were able to try to take something and do it in the style of like the Clone Wars animated shows or something.
You probably could.
Because I mean, it is a very like unique style to it.
well, let's find out,
But
dude. So we're coming
I'm
back
curious
here.
to see what it's coming up with for these. That dude is hugging his sword.
All right, so one is done. That one's done. Okay, so the first one here does not have Star Wars. Oh wait, no, it's the same
No
one.
Star.
Yeah, here we go. This one does
Right.
not have Star Wars. Oh, you're
No
right.
Star Wars. Yeah, bottom right there. He's just hugging it. It's his
He,
best friend.
he is. He trusts it. He believes in it. I don't know if it's just me, but is it? It kind of gives me like a short stature kind of vibe in a
Yeah,
few of these.
it's making him feel a little bit more stout.
Yeah, I think it's taking the reference image a bit more literally in this one, at least with the not necessarily anatomy, but I guess
It's like the general proportions.
proportions. Yeah, proportions.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, oh, I'm really
Yeah,
liking
and
this
then
number 2 helmet here. That looks pretty badass.
oh yeah, yeah. And you can definitely see like this is just fantasy armor.
Mm-hmm.
There's definitely nothing to give it that sci-fi vibe other than the weapon, pretty much.
Man, I'll tell you right now.
Which, to be fair, this guy isn't sci-fi. He is a fantasy character.
So this is the one with the Star Wars tag added, and I see the Kylo Ren in these.
I'm seeing some Kylo Ren. I feel like I'm seeing a little bit of Revan in the bottom left guy.
Bottom left guy, Revan
Yeah.
was he's
KOTOR, Knights of the Old
yeah
Republic.
yeah he's a infamous character if I'm not mistaken.
I really like the asymmetry almost that you get, which it could just be that the left shoulder is covered on the bottom right guy, but it almost feels like the right side is armored and exposed, whereas the left side is covered and less
Yeah,
armored.
yeah, I could see that.
Which I go wild for that kind of a design.
Yeah. All right. All right. Nice. So here's a question. What you can also do is blend two images together. So we have one, two, three. We have 4 of these. Are there? I guess in any of the images that we had kind of generated here, are there 2 images that you were particularly fond of in one of the 2 characters that we did?
I mean, like, let's see. There's definitely I feel like the top 2 of that first one
This one here.
definitely have some good vibe. Like the top right guy is definitely way different from like the reference, but just like the way it turns out, there's
something
stuff
there.
I like about it.
Yeah, so here we're gonna upscale this guy, make it a little larger. It is gonna add another rendition to it, so it might get tweaked a little bit. We'll see what the final looks like.
Mm.
But pick a second one as well. Do you want to move down or?
Yeah, let's.
This is the second set. And then just to jog your memory, I'll glance at the third set. And the fourth set.
I kind of want to go with the third set's that bottom left guy.
Bottom left guy, the one hugging the sword.
Yeah, it's not the hugging the sword so much as the rest of it.
Okay, okay. Well, let's see what happens. So we're going to upscale. These should finish relatively quickly. And then what we'll do is we'll take the upscaled image for each of them and see what like mashing them together might look like. Ooh, this one got changed quite a bit actually. This is the one that had the rapier kind of sword. His face totally changed.
Yep. And he ended up with some blue in his chest piece
Oh
there.
yeah, you're right.
Which is interesting because like it's it just stands out so much because he's very monochrome. Otherwise, it's just red and
All of a
black and
sudden,
gray,
it's
pretty much, and
bluish
then
purple
just
in the middle. Yeah.
came out of nowhere. Though the reference did have purple on it, so
Did it?
yeah, his mask is purple in the reference.
I wonder if it took some inspiration there, or not inspiration, but wow, completely different look though. Let's
Sure
see.
is, yeah.
Can I click it again? I can click it again. Okay, let's see what happens with that. Oh, and then I can make variations of that one. Ooh. Interesting. All right, well, we'll see what the second variation here looks like, but where's the other one? Hugging Boy. Ooh, that one got a little bit more stylized, didn't it?
Yeah, I kind of like how the armor look, because it does have that fantasy weird like ornate design to it.
Mm-hmm.
And then
Handmade.
The mask is kind of looking cool. There's actually a mask that looks a lot more like that than the one that I chose in HeroForge.
Oh, really? Okay, interesting.
Yeah.
All right, so we'll where did it go? This guy. Okay, so let me pull this one up. Grab this image. And so we should be able to do that image, comma, and then the other one is still waiting to start. But yeah, you can see just like doing one upscale or one variation, you're not guaranteed to get the sample that you thought you were going to get either, which is makes it a little tricky. All right, this one may be a little closer, but at the same time still not quite.
Mm-hmm.
Where was the first one? Yeah, so well, we'll try it. I mean, do you prefer this first one, which has like a weird vertical mouth thing going on, or do you like would you prefer this one that has like a separated nose and then has a vertical line?
Let's try this one.
Okay, so we'll take this one, which, oh, I opened the wrong link. Let me open it this way.
Seeing the variations and stuff though, off of the single one like that, it makes me think that'd be a great way to do, like, if you were going to use stuff generated from this, just throw it right into a D&D game, right?
Yep.
Or whatever RPG of your choice. That'd be a great way to do, like, say, like the lieutenants of your villain or whatever.
Oh,
if you're
there you
going
go.
for like, and going back to Star Wars, like the Knights of Ren, they all were like, yeah, it's like Kylo Ren, but a little bit different.
Yep. It's the
and so
honor
you
squad.
get that kind of a vibe. Yeah.
And you know what? Let's take, ooh, something interesting's happening there. Let's take those two images and let's also, comma, in the style of Clone Wars animation. I don't think we need to do in the. All right, we'll try that and see how close to that style. But yeah, here's the output of the merged image here. Which
so I think we got the next big lightsaber design in the bottom right here.
Bottom right. just a full on 90 degree. Who knows what's going on there?
It's the L saber.
The L saber, yeah. He's Australian.
And that, I don't know, maybe it's just seeing it a bit further away here, but that one almost makes me think of like a jack-o'-lantern face.
Which one's that? The bottom right or top?
Bottom right, yeah. Top left too, a little bit.
Gotta say the kind of face highlight is kind of neat on all of these. Really capitalized on that kind of sunken in the mask, dark, but you see the glow.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting how the armor has all changed, and also the kind of short proportions is kind of removed on a couple of them. It looks a little bit more imposing, properly imposing, not like a chihuahua trying to bark up your leg.
Right.
Yeah, definitely interesting. Definitely a interesting tool for tickling the brain for sure.
Yep. Yep.
Also, looks like our final one. There you go.
Oh shoot! Look at that.
Yep.
It got an interesting split one on the top right there.
That's a cover for a poster or something.
Yeah.
Interesting
This
how it
top
even
left
got that.
guy is giving me some Morrowind vibes. It was it Vivek? Has like the blue side and the gold side split perfectly down the center.
I can see that. I'm not super familiar with it, but you know what I'm noticing is actually considering how all four of these have a very particular, not only the styles taken in the well, not only is it generated in the style of the rough style of Clone Wars, but the way we have multiple characters that suddenly appeared, and then
Mm-hmm.
also how like even the fourth image, the bottom right, has like this has this like I don't even know what you would call it with the quadrants, but there must be some sort of Clone Wars artwork out there that's in the data set that
Yeah.
that splits the images in this way or has it where it's not like a singular character because Clone Wars is always a pretty large cast in all of the images I've seen of it.
Mm-hmm.
So what
I
would
definitely
happen?
came up with some interesting things on that one.
Yeah, and actually even your character reference like kind of got thrown out the window outside of maybe the armor
Yeah.
to some degree, but yeah, like
Yeah, like there's elements of the color scheme
yeah,
and like I would say like the bottom left one is the closest overall because it's got the dark clothes, the hood, the kind of lighter color on the armor.
right.
Uh
It's actually a cool
yeah.
kind of a cool image with like the two guards in the back too though.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But yeah, definitely. I think the way you operate, right? The fact that you take your ideas, you come up. So here's a question: do you come up with the character idea before, during, or after you create them in HeroForge?
Usually after these days. Like
Okay.
most times I'll go into Hero Forge and it's like there's one particular thing I want to do. Like I want to do like for Miss Greek hero lady. It was I wanted to do the bodysuit with the armor.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like I wanted to have like a chest piece that doesn't cover the full upper body, and then some sort of like superhero style bodysuit underneath, and the rest
Right.
all came after that. And then the actual character build came after the whole thing was done. So
Okay.
yeah, I built the actual game character around the visual design.
Got it. Yeah. Oh, look at it transformed what I thought was a dude to now a chick. I don't know. I kind of feel like that looked like a guy at first, but when I upscaled it, now we have this image.
That's interesting.
The weapon is also
It's
fascinating.
doing something with that that weapon,
Yeah.
but like the armor and stuff looks cool. The framing with the like you said with the guards in the back is a really cool look. Like
There's at least a vibe here. I will give it that.
yeah,
Yep.
it definitely has a vibe to it,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm for it.
And then what was this one? This was just me hitting the refresh to make more. So yeah, again, man, I can't
You
tell
have the
anymore.
split one, but it's the same face.
You're right. The bottom right here, yeah.
The head is completely one piece, but then the outfits are split.
Yep. That's kind of interesting. It's
Oh
it would be like a split of Luke Skywalker on the light side and the dark side.
yeah, this top right one is interesting because it looks like the guy and then the guy with
A helmet.
mask on
Yeah. I
because the
see it.
armor and stuff looks pretty much the same. Maybe some slight, you know, with it being. the way that it is, but you got this 6 guys on the side again.
Yep. So there must be some sort of Clone Wars art out there that it's common, either that or
Yeah,
I don't know. We'll have to maybe look at that at some point, but
that's interesting.
definitely. Well, we got maybe 20 minutes left. Is there anything else you'd like to maybe touch on, explore, check out?
Shoot, man, I don't.
Well, let's start with what did you think of all this?
I think it was really cool seeing, because you definitely have a better grasp on how to kind of bend this to your will a little bit than I
Debatable.
would. But I mean, it really just reinforces my thoughts on how valuable it would be as a reference sort of a tool. Because like if you don't have a final design already, or even if you do, like you're going to get stuff that's going to potentially give you ideas that you hadn't thought of, or whatever the case might be. Because like I will do some kind of artwork for some characters that I've made, and the struggle I always have with it is figuring out, like, okay, what can I put them in that isn't just a knockoff of this other character's outfit or something like that. It's like trying to come up with original outfit designs and stuff like that, armor designs and things. And so that usually ends up being like looking up a lot of image references and figuring out how to mash things up together to get something unique, original.
Yeah.
And I mean that's kind of, when you can throw in a prompt and get 4 results and then slightly tweak the prompt, or just have it generated it again with the same prompt and see different some slight different takes, or even vastly different takes on roughly the same general idea. I feel like you can end up getting inspiration that you wouldn't necessarily have come by otherwise, especially with how some of this stuff just doesn't make sense. And sometimes when you see something that doesn't make sense, it's like, oh, that's weird. But what if we used something like that?
Yeah. What if you took a piece from it?
Yeah, and like it being something that doesn't make sense necessarily, you probably wouldn't see something like it in, like, if you were looking up images of existing clothes that are actually made in the world or something, when this thing can just make whatever nonsense it can come up with, you can get that uniqueness.
That I like the way you put it. You can just use this to generate all sorts of nonsense. I think that actually kind of sums up the current state of it right now, or at least the usability of it.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, honestly, and the more I've looked at this stuff, the more I've leaned towards the idea that, like, this is, it's a thing that's out there. It's a thing that's gonna almost certainly continue being out there. And if it's out there, it might be used in some poor ways, but it could also be used in some really good ways, I feel like. And if it's out there, you might as well use it in those good ways, right? If you can, and if you're not directly harming anyone else.
Well, it's also, I think I would argue, intent matters as well, right? So
yeah,
somebody taking it and claiming to be an artist, it's like, bro, you are. I think I made this argument in a previous episode where if you're using an AI tool to generate something like artwork, that doesn't make you an artist. If anything, it just makes you some form of again, like a prompt engineer for AI generated art, right? It's the nuance, I think, of being a quote unquote artist requires a bit more hands on involvement than coding, in a sense, in a very, very loose, light, high level sense here.
Yeah.
It's not even coding. It's just like telling AI these are things. I compared ChatGPT to like the next iteration of what Google was back in the day. I feel like image generating AI isn't really far off from that mark either. It's like reverse image searching versus, say, just Google searching or using a search engine to find a type of image you're looking for, right? Like this is kind of just, I'm looking for a type of image. What do you got for me, right?
And speaking about that intent, like almost like, I guess like an example not using AI that came to mind was like, if I was like, hey, you've got this character idea, what if I made you a 3D model of that character? And then I just went on HeroForge and assembled it using their tool. Like that's a disingenuous use of that tool.
Well, I think that I don't know if I would say that that's disingenuous. I think the claim that you made it, like
right, like
the way
that
phrasing
the concept
was
is presented as like, yeah, I'll make you a 3D model of that character.
Yeah,
that right there is the disingenuous part.
Yeah.
And that I don't know where, I don't know when, but that is something that I've seen before.
Oh, so you might have someone saying,
using one of these tools, but the way they presented it initially was, I'll make a 3D model of that character for you.
Yeah, it's framed in a way that is disingenuous.
Yeah,
yeah.
Like someone.
I think I've heard
like
about
the
this.
creator of the art or whatever.
I think I've heard about this from a few artist folks, which were like, you know, it really makes you question like how many people say like on Fiverr are perhaps not actually drawing, painting, doing digital art to make these. They're just being like, hey, I'll make it for you, but they're really just using an AI tool, right?
Yeah.
But on the flip side to this is that I don't remember if it was in episode 5 or 6 that I talked about it, but one of the a couple of the podcasts that I had kind of discovered through looking into more of the artistic side of, or the artistic sphere that AI is now involved in, I came across a couple of folks that were talking about how much like I grew up and saw the internet become what it is today, they saw digital art become what it is today as well, right? So what I mean by that is there's a couple of older gentlemen who were speaking online, and they had talked about their experience going to like art school where there was traditional, you know, hand drawn, hand painted artwork. And when, say, like a tool like Photoshop came out, there were people who would use, say, Photoshop to touch up their images digitally, and they would end up getting a failing grade when the professor found out, because the professor did not see that as artwork. They saw it as like manipulation or something, right? I think there was also an example, say, of, was it Photoshop? Yeah, I think it was also Photoshop. But it was in a work setting where people were looking for an artist, but they started getting digital artists, and they're like, dude, we're not hiring you because that's not what we're looking for. But today, people don't think twice about artists using Photoshop unless you're specifically looking for a traditional artist, right? So
yeah,
I wonder how these tools are going to change in the next, say, as little as 4 years versus the perception that people have of them in, say, 10 years, right? I imagine it's going to be wildly different to how people are addressing it today, but time will tell. Here's another challenge. I don't know if you've noticed this, but unless you specify a very particular art style, it seems to be defaulting to this kind of look here,
Mm-hmm.
which
Yeah.
is, I don't know. It's like a high quality digital art, right? It's
Mm-hmm.
looks like something. I'm trying to figure out what would be a keyword that would work for, say, something a bit more digitally painted, but I don't think that's the right keyword for it. You know what I'm getting at? Because like what you'll find on say like Reddit. I've browsed a few images on Reddit. There's definitely like a hand sketched concept art look that was definitely made through a digital tool. Like
Mm-hmm.
I'm not really sure what to call that, but I feel like that's a bit more of an appropriate style when it comes to something like a tabletop RPG.
Yeah, I don't know what you would say to try to bring that out.
Drawn fantasy concept. Yeah, see, I placed it up here. Let's try drawing of a character portrait. Drawing of character portrait, bronze skinned. Actually, let's also put a hyphen there. Bronze skinned female with golden eyes and short brown hair. Concept artwork. Oops. Concept artwork. Let's try just that and see what comes out of it. So yeah, this is one of my concerns with AI in general, is because these tools and the people behind these tools add restrictions to what can be done with the tool. I do
Mm-hmm.
worry, much like we've noticed already, kind of like common trends with female noses that are being generated, with kind of just the default biases of what's in the data set. I do worry that as more and more people say upvote, because I think every time we, click a, one of these emotes, for example, we're training the AI. I'm sure to some
Mm-hmm.
degree there's like a weight wherever, whichever image we upscale, there's a particular training of the machine learning that's happening here. But yeah, even again, it's still giving me this kind of super high detail concept art look.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. I don't know. That's what we're gonna continue to play around with on this series on this channel. So yeah, Azabiel, anything closing that you'd like to share out there before we start wrapping it up here? I think we're pushing on the 2 hours, so we're gonna be closing out soon. But yeah, final thoughts on what this experience was like. What did you think? I know you kind of touched on what you thought about the AI, having now kind of seen it a bit more closely, but yeah, is this something that maybe you'd like to dive into a little bit more another time? We could maybe do one for the text-based tools, because that's also an idea that I think there is potential where we're seeing in the business world, at least, right? Advertising, various email prompting is already being done. I do wonder how many folks are using it for more creative endeavors like social media related, for streams or YouTube videos, or in your case, tabletop RPG ideas, which I think there's a lot of potential there as well.
Yeah, I think you kind of touched on it a little bit in previous episode or two. Um, Definitely one that I watched. Might have been the first one. No, it wasn't the first one. I think I missed the first one. Or else I missed the announcement of it. I don't remember.
It
I
does.
missed
It's all
something.
good. It's all good.
Point is, I think there's a lot of potential to look into for the text based one. Like I've like you were mentioning some examples. I've heard of other examples, but I haven't really heard about anyone messing with it in like a creative endeavor in that way. So I'm very interested to see what it could do for when we really dive into it for tabletop type applications. Because from the little bit that I've seen, I think there's a lot of potential for it to be really useful in that field as well. So I'm really I'd be really interested to jump on again at some point to talk about that.
Absolutely. You're welcome. So, with that, everyone out there, thank you all for joining today. I'm very happy to have had our first guest now. Hope you all enjoyed that. Let us know what you thought, what you think of these tools, how you guys might be using them out there today, maybe some of your reasons for not using it. And maybe even if you have some opinions on how we can improve when we have guests on. Is the audio good? Is the visual positioning good? Give us some ideas. We're definitely open to exploring that as well. And as before we close out, we do have again his links in the description. So if you're interested in checking out the professional game mastering that this man does on Start Playing, you can find that below. And then if you would like to see him goofing around in various games and collaborations, he does stream occasionally on Twitch as well, which that is also in the description. But yeah, any announcements that you'd like to share? Anything you'd like to put out there before we close out?
Well, I think if people stay tuned to the space channels, you might see me around soon, tomorrow, maybe. I have to double check. But there's also this event that Lead Loth was talking about on Twitter and such that I'm going to be joining in with alongside like 36 other people.
Oh boy.
It's going to be a good time to be sure. I can only imagine it's going to be going on for a little while.
What is this? What is this event you're talking about?
It's a big D&D PvP tournament, player versus player tournament.
Oh, this is the PvP you're talking about. Okay.
Yep. My understanding is it's going to be like very fun atmosphere. There's going to be like commentators going on and stuff like that. So, and what they're planning to do is have like a live camera on actual minis. So you'll be able to see this character that we were working on a little bit earlier. This kind of Greek hero lady in actual 3D mini form.
Yeah, let's get her back up here. This one right here, right?
That's the one.
Cool.
Yep.
All right.
They're printing them, they're painting them, and they're gonna throw them at each other.
Oh, very cool.
In the arena.
Very cool. All right.
I think that's gonna be starting off in February, so stay tuned for that.
Nice. All right, everyone. Thank you again for tuning in. Hope you enjoyed. Leave a comment. Let us know what you thought and push the goddamn button. And with that, we'll see you all next time. Take it easy, everybody. Bye.